After living with the Pixel 5 for around 6 months, we thought it was due a revisit, or at least a longer term look at what makes it a genuinely compelling option, even over some of the biggest flagship devices out there. So this is our review of the Pixel 5 6 months after release. Thanks for watching 9 to 5 Google here on YouTube. Remember to thumbs up, hit subscribe, and then tap the bell icon to be among the first to watch our upcoming videos. I think there's just something refreshing about a slightly smaller device, and for me at least the Pixel 5 really manages to satisfy that urge. I've used a whole host of large smartphones throughout 2020 and early 2021, and for me at least, I'm becoming a little bit tired of cumbersome phablets that require or often require multiple digits to operate effectively. I do honestly prefer a smaller footprint smartphone, which is something that the COVID-19 pandemic has exacerbated, as I'm stuck at home using my PC or laptop far more often than I will my smartphone. That does probably explain why I use the Pixel 4a as a daily device, a smartphone in a package that is small and fairly discreet. The same can be said of the Pixel 5. Stick it in a case though and it's still small and pocketable. I think that I'm in the minority here in this regard, and I do think a proper XL model would have been a sensible decision from Google, and one that I do hope that they overturn with the upcoming Pixel 6. At least let people choose if they want a smaller phone. Just one SKU and a confusing Pixel 4a 5G in the mix does mean that I'm sure many people out there just skip the Pixel series entirely. I said when I revisited the Pixel 4 XL that I think a Pixel isn't really a Pixel because of the internals, and the 3a, 4a, and now the Pixel 5 further proves that as far as I'm concerned. It's a combination of multiple components all designed to serve up the best Android experience on a device at the potentially lowest price available. At the very heart of that are little touches like the usage of that sage green colour finish atop that aluminium chassis. It's just a shame you have only 2 colours to choose from this year. The finish has held up well even when I've used the Pixel 5 without a case. I love that textured sort of papery finish, as it really differentiates this smartphone from the numerous glass sandwiches out there. My only gripe is that very minor gap between the display and the frame. I have noticed it on my device, it's barely a millimetre, but the gap is so small that luckily it doesn't appear to be a problem, at least as far as device IP rating is concerned. How you feel will be very determinant on how you feel about overall finish and fit of a smartphone. The haptics as well, they are a little bit of a step down over the Pixel 4 series. I'm not sure why, but the taps and the feedback feels slightly less full and sort of more hollow when you're scratching away at your display. I find them pretty good, but not quite up to the standards of some other Android flagships out there, the OnePlus 9 Pro being a notable prime example of how haptics should be done on an Android smartphone in 2021. I'm also confident enough to say that the Pixel 5 has the best display I've used on a Pixel to date. Sure, it's not 1440p, nor is it 120Hz. Two things I would really like. It is, however, crisp, clear, and it gets bright enough to use in direct sunlight, something which I found was a little bit more difficult on the Pixel 4 series, and it did suffer back when I ran that as my default device. We need to take a second as well to appreciate Google's display tuning, as it is genuinely excellent. Anything you'd want to look at on the Pixel 5 looks great, sharp, clear, and with good viewing angles to boot. It would be amazing to see a future Pixel come packing a 120Hz display, but I think 90Hz is still slick and smooth when running what is the cleanest version of Android. The 6-inch size is great for reachability. It's not quite usable or usability one-handed, but it is a nice middling size for most people out there, I'd imagine. A sore point is naturally going to be a lack of an XL variant, which might have had more people looking away from the Pixel 5 over some other options out there, provided high-end internals have not deemed it a necessity to you. There is also an under-display earpiece speaker on the Pixel 5 for the first time on a Pixel series device, and it vibrates the glass to emit a sound in tandem with the bottom firing earpiece. It's fairly clear, but I would say the maximum volume is not what I would call great after some extensive usage. I initially had no problems, but now I feel this is an area that I think is kind of sorely lacking on the entire package. Let's talk about the software and the performance stakes, and those performance levels on the Pixel 5 are just not quite up to the same levels of the Pixel 4 from 2019, and I think that is the biggest sore point for just about any hardcore Pixel fan out there, which is entirely understandable. Dropping down to the Snapdragon 765G chipset, which is about as powerful as the Pixel 3's Snapdragon 845, is something that on face value does feel like a cheap move just to put in 5G. I will admit, upon release I was worried about this, and even half a year after release I still worry a little bit. The reality is that I have yet to be majorly disappointed in my own usage patterns though. There is enough grunt just to do some gaming on the go, just don't think that you're getting a beastly pixel like in previous years, and I think then you can kind of tailor your expectations. Things can feel a little pedestrian at times, especially when side by side with the late 2020 flagship. If you're just sending texts and replying to emails though, well, I think it's absolutely fine. Would I like a little bit more headroom for long-term performance? Definitely. It does slightly worry me long-term, but I do think as well that 8GB of RAM will really help keep things ticking along for a lot longer than say the Pixel 3 series. When gaming as well, I did also notice some slight overheating at times, and similarly when recording videos at 4K 60 while outside. It's really infrequent though, given how random the weather conditions are here in the UK to be in the sun for a long time. The system, when this does happen, does get slightly choppy or laggy at times, but only for a second or so before snapping back into action. Having switched between some of the fastest flagships of 2021, I do say I will have noticed some lower performance, which is a bit jarring, but I'm not making excuses for Google here. It's fine if you don't do anything power hungry or in need of that under the hood grunt like video editing or hardcore gaming. As well, being able to install the Android 12 developer preview and upcoming beta phases is something I do really love about all eligible Pixel devices. Despite being designed for developers to get their apps ready for the full Android 12 release later this year, it's fairly stable considering just who it is targeted towards. All in all, the entire performance of the device is fairly middling. At the end of the day, this isn't going to be a high-end Pixel like we've expected in previous years, but that said, I do enjoy every single interaction with the device. Personally though, the most disappointing aspect of the Pixel 5 experience this year has not been the performance levels, it's actually been the lack of real development in the camera hardware. That doesn't actually diminish what Google still manages to do with 3-year-old camera hardware, but it is high time that we were offered a no compromise camera setup on a Pixel device. The removal of the telephoto zoom lens frustrates me, especially as I'm a big advocate for extended focal lengths. I like the ultra-wide, it's pretty good, even though I do use it very sparingly. A triple lens setup with all 3 focal lens of wide, ultra-wide and telephoto, plus a higher resolution sensor should really be a top priority though for the upcoming Pixel 6, at least in my opinion. I'd love a dedicated pro camera mode in the camera to play around with too. Just a few more options as well in that camera would be really nice to see in future builds. However, the Pixel 5 camera UI is among the best for usability and accessibility and the features on offer. Images still hang in with the best in the business, but I think the wow factor has really sort of waned in recent years as the competition has kind of steadily caught up on what was once a huge lead on Pixel cameras. Image processing is slow as well, courtesy of a lower powered chipset and the lack of Pixel visual core. But even though you need to wait to get your final photo, we can hope that Google can keep the Pixel 5 competitive over time. That said, the end results do nail the shot more often than even some high-end competitors out there. Night sight is still just as impressive as it was when it's first unveiled, and while the portrait mode is a little bit artificial, it's still very much excellent. Some issues aside though, it's hard to deny that the Pixel 5 is still among the best point-and-shoot smartphone cameras you can buy. If you want to experiment or tweak things further, then unfortunately, you just need to look elsewhere. Even after around 6 months of usage, 5 to 6 hours of screen on time are what I am expecting as well from the Pixel 5. Usually at the end of the day, I'll be left with around 20 to 30% remaining and 4.5 hours of screen on time registered on the regular. Heavy usage isn't a problem in my own experience. That includes some cloud gaming on platforms like Stadia and plenty of video viewing on YouTube and Netflix. This is pretty darn good compared to recent years, but it pales in comparison to my usual Pixel 4a. The charge speeds as well are not exactly fast at 18 watts wired or 10 watt wireless, but I am hoping that this bodes well for the long-term battery health. All in all, the Pixel 5 is dependable all day, no matter what you happen to throw at it. That said, let's hope we get an even bigger battery next year, as it will be a bigger bonus for long-term viability. So wrapping it all up, I think unless you want Qi wireless charging, a 90Hz display and an IP68 rating, then realistically the Pixel 4a 5G is probably a better way to leverage the best portions of the Pixel 5 without needing to spend $699 or £599 in the UK. I said that the Pixel 5 felt like an exercise in compromise in my initial review, And I think I stand by that wholeheartedly. It's really hard to deny that yes, there are cheaper smartphones that have fewer compromises if you prioritize specifications over software experience. Google may have listed the Pixel 5 as a little higher than it probably should be priced. That said, you're paying for more than just on-paper specifications. Samsung's recent upgrade promises make the Galaxy S20 FE and even the Galaxy S21 great alternatives if Google's clean vision of Android and unique features are not a necessity to you. That said, with discounts and rebates, it becomes a very compelling option. Just be prepared to compromise in a few areas. Alternatively, given the Pixel 6 is on the horizon and it's coming with its own Whitechapel CPU, it might be worthwhile waiting just a little longer. That said, if you prioritize the Pixel experience over potential specifications, and you'll have what I would consider one of the most surprising smartphones of late 2020 and now mid 2021. So that's it, that's a Pixel 5 some 6 or so months after release. Did you pick one up? Are you looking to pick one up or just hate the entire idea of it altogether? Let us know down in the comments section below how you're getting on or how you feel about it. But as per usual, until next time, this is Damien with 9to5 Google saying thanks for watching, and I will speak to you later.